Hi everyone, welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Tuesday, June 4th, 2024, and this is episode 285. My name is Carol, my Ravelry name is Knits and Pearls, and I live east of Vancouver in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada. Where it is dark and stormy today. All of a sudden the wind has just picked up and the rain has begun again. It's been raining off and on for the last 4 days, but apparently it's supposed to be sunshiny tomorrow. So cross fingers, I am ready for some sunshine. I hope you're all doing well, that you've had a good couple of weeks since we last spoke. Thank you for all your kind comments and private messages and the participation in the make-alongs. They are greatly appreciated. Speaking of make-alongs, there are two that are taking place in the A Stitch in Time podcast Ravelry group. A year-long chatter thread called Smash the Stash, and the second of 4 quarterly make-alongs that will take place this year, Accessorize It. That is going to run until the end of June, and then starting July 1st, we have Rock Your Socks, I think is what I called it, which will concentrate on socks, slippers, and leg warmers, all the footwear. Everything you need to know to participate is in the first post of each of the pertinent threads. You are welcome to join in, but do please take a moment just to read over the rules and guidelines. And on that note, just a gentle reminder in the Accessorize It FO thread, please be sure to include your starting post from the chatter thread in your finished projects post. It makes it a lot easier for me to go find your original cast on in the chatter thread. And please do a separate cast on post for each of your projects. That also makes it easier for me to go to your project page, verify that it was cast on and made within the required time. It's nice to see some new faces in the group and on YouTube comments. So welcome to all the newcomers. I really appreciate you checking out the podcast and taking part in the make-alongs. All right, let's get started. I have a couple of finished projects, a couple of works in progress, some spinning, and some weaving. Yes, you heard it right. I have some weaving to share with you today, and I'm overjoyed with being back at the loom. And then, of course, few acquisitions and life stuff. So settle in with maybe a cup of tea, or maybe if it's hot where you would prefer something cold to drink. And if it's, well, I was gonna say afternoon, I'm not gonna judge. Maybe you'd like a adult beverage. Whatever you like, tuck in with that and a project, and let's talk some yarny goodness. So first, I'm gonna have a sip of tea from my very full new cup. This I got on Mother's Day from my grandchildren. Grandmas make everything better. Hopefully that's true. I got to spend Friday with our younger granddaughter. She had a day off school, so we had a nice day together. All right, first finished project. These are my May Personal Sock Yarn Club socks. I am calling them my weekend socks, and I knit them in honor of the May long weekend, the Victoria Day weekend. That sort of kicks off holiday, warm weather season here in Canada. Although this year you wouldn't know it, because we've had so much cold, wet weather. It doesn't really feel like it's summer at all. I guess it's not quite technically summer anyway, but not too far away. The yarn I used is from Gauge Dye Works. It's their classic, I'm confused, I think it's their classic base, but it's their classic stripe. I'm not sure. It's merino, their classic merino twist self-striping. in the Weekend colorway, and this is the round trip version of it. So I'm not exactly sure how all that information goes together, so I keep glancing out the window because it is just crazy windy out there. But this particular skein, the round trip skeins, begin with one color. In this case it was red, and then went all through the skein and then faded back out again to the red. So it went through the green, or the gray and the bluey green. So it resulted, I started one sock from the inside of the skein, one from the outside, and while they are not identical, they are definitely close siblings. Maybe not quite, maybe they're fraternal twins. Let's leave it at that. You can see like where the heels are, they're not quite the same, and you can see just where the blue started in relation to the gray on one sock to the other. They're not exactly the same, but they're very, very close, and I love them. I love this turquoise and red together. It's one of my favorite color combinations, and yeah, super happy with those. So I look forward to wearing them. And the crazy thing is it's beginning of June, and I've been wearing my wool socks practically every day. But that's just how it is this year. We do need the water, I will say that, but it's just kind of crazy to be this cold this late in the year. I woke up this morning and I could hear a noise, and I was thinking that at first that it was an airplane, because we do live very close to the airport. And then I realized it was the furnace. And then earlier this morning I was attempting to record a segment for later on in this episode, and the furnace kicked on again. So that's how chilly it is out there. A second finished project. I'm happy to say I finished my husband socks. So even though I stopped watching the NHL playoffs because the Vancouver Canucks got eliminated, I carried on working on these socks, and I'm happy to say they are done. And Cameron says he's going to wear them on the plane when we leave for our trip next week. We'll see how the weather is, if he needs wool socks then or not. I knit these from some yarn from Regia. It's the jeans style color number 4041. And that is Sky. So bring those in a little bit closer. I really like how they knit up. I like this yarn. They just weren't the most exciting socks to knit. Just thinking, I don't think I brought these in very close. German short row heel, my usual rounded toe. These are 64 stitches on a 2mm needle. Probably could have gone down to 60. They're just a little bit bigger than I like. They'll be fine, but I have to remember with Gauge Dye Works, I really should go down to 60 stitches. And these I did 68 stitches because my husband's finding sometimes the 72 stitch socks are a little bit looser than he likes. So, as for the NHL playoffs, I stopped watching them when the Edmonton Oilers beat the Vancouver Canucks, but the Edmonton Oilers have just beat the Dallas Stars to go to the Stanley Cup final against the Florida Panthers. And so I have to cheer for the Oilers because they are the only I was kind of cheering for them anyway because they were the only Canadian team left in the playoffs, and now that they're all the way to the Stanley Cup, we need a Canadian team to claim that victory. So I'm definitely pulling for the Oilers. So good luck to them. I think that starts on Saturday. I probably won't get to see more than 1 or 2 games because we are going away, but I think I will tune in. Oh, I'm going to try and tune in Saturday. We might be busy doing other things. We'll see. But anyway, I'm pulling for them regardless of whether I watch or not. So last episode, I opened my Personal Sock Yarn Club yarn for June, and I cast my socks on Sunday, and I took them with me to a little get-together I had with our family. I just dropped some on the ground. 1 second. I'm perched on the corner of the bed here, so everything is a little unstable. So the yarn is from Lang. It's the Super Socks in the Chemical Elements line. This is color 901.0345, and that is the neon colorway. And I believe I had seen this yarn for the first time on the Crazy Sock Lady podcast, and I remember loving the yarn, and I think I went looking for it and didn't order it, and then later on came across it when I was ordering something else from somewhere else and thought, you know what, I need that yarn in my life, because look how fun and bright. Ooh, the sun is just peeking out for a moment anyway. So look how, isn't that awesome? So this is one full color repeat. It's actually almost blowing things out now, the sun. That's okay, I'll take that over too dark. That's too dark back there. Oh well, we're just rolling with it. So I've got that much done on one sock. I tried to do that, finish one color repeat before I went to bed last night, and then I've got the whole cuff done on the second. So I am working these, as you can see, concurrently. Again, 64 stitches on a 2mm needle. And I think what I'm going to do is find some black yarn and do heels in the black, because I don't want to interrupt the color progression. I can feel my nose dripping, pardon me. All right, I've only been working on one other knitting project this week, or the last 2 weeks I should say, but oh, have I been going crazy. So last episode I showed you that I was working on this square for my blanket of cheer. And if you are new, my blanket of cheer is a mitered square blanket that I am knitting with all yarn from Fiber Nymph Dye Works. So all of the solid or semi-solid squares are the bounce base, and then I am using leftovers from my self-striping in the Bedazzled, the Bounce, and the Mountain Tweed BFL bases. And then, so I start with the semi-solid squares that I pick up along one side and do a self-striping, pick up along the other side, do a self-striping, and then I'm using the plain vanilla bounce to pick up stitches all around and do a border. And I think last episode I mentioned that I had my jumping off point was the Stitch in Time blanket by Kay Jones. And really all that I've done that resembles it is I used the same number of stitches for my mitered squares. I was thinking last week, I think I said I did the border more or less the same, but I didn't. I ended up, I think she works along 4 sides, like one at a time. I actually picked up around the edge, or I do pick up around the edge and then do a garter border out and then bind off. Oh my goodness, the sunshine's gone. It's back to rain, and it continues to be very, very blustery out there. Pardon me, because I'm very distracted by what's going on outside this window. Anyway, so I was working on this square last week, but I went on a bit of a finishing tear, and I put the border on almost all of the ones that didn't have a border. So this is a brand new square. This is the this one here is from the Blue Morpho set I got as part of the Lepidoptera Yarn and Fiber Club, and so this was one of the minis that came with it, and then the main yarn. So that one I was working on last week, and I showed you the yarn for this one. So I finished that square, and then I'm not sure if this is all the ones I put borders on, but I'm just gonna flash. Counted, I now have, I think, I lost count. I think I have around 22 squares done now. I think I was saying this one last week I said was the first square that I did. It would probably be the last to get a border, but it's not. So these are actually, the self-striping yarns are the same skein, but I took them from different parts of the skein and put them with different colors and makes them look entirely different. And that's what I really love about this project. I'm having so much fun with it. So I have these bags now full of finished squares. Can add these. And I just have this one to do. And this one. And then all of my squares will be completely finished, which makes me very happy. And then I have loaded up this bag with I guess 4 different sets of semi-solids, and then the yarns that are going to go with them. So still continuing to really love that project. It's feels really good to be finally almost caught up with all the borders, because that I think prevented me from working on it for a while, for the idea of doing all that. But once I got going, I just wanted to do another and another and another and another. And now what I'll more or less do is complete, oh, you should see the rain just coming down right now. What I plan to do is just, as I finish a square, now I will put the border on it. That's my intention. We'll see how it goes. All right, spinning. So feeding over into life stuff, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before, I went with my daughter to a get together with the Chilliwack Spinners and Weavers Guild. She's been a member for a while now. She wanted me to come, and it was just, they had their monthly meeting, and then they always do some spinning or weaving, or, you know, they have a little get together afterwards. So she asked me if I wanted to come to that. And so I did go to that, and partly also because I wanted to talk to the woman who I bought my spinning wheel from, because I had a couple of questions about the wheel, and I knew she would be there, and I also knew she would be there with some new spinning fiber for sale. And so I did go. I met some really nice women from the guild, and worked on my spinning, and bought some fiber. So one of the braids of fiber I bought was a Superwash Merino Speckle. So that's like got some tweedy bits in it. So I did my first true 3-ply. I borrowed my daughter's Lazy Kate and spun up the braid and did a 3-ply. If you can see, lots of pretty colors in there. I don't think it's the best job. There's parts that I think look better than others. You know, we're still getting some thick and thin. But, you know, overall, I'm pleased with it. I feel like it's a little bit twisted. It's not as well balanced as it could be. Although it has relaxed some since washing it and just letting it hang. It's relaxed a bit. And this practically spun itself. It drafted so easily. I hadn't done superwash merino before, but it was very easy to spin and really fun to watch all the colors come through. So this one, I broke up the braid into 4 lengths, and then I just separated it up into, I don't even know how many, when you separate the braid out. And I just spun it willy-nilly, no plan. So these colors are all completely mixed in no particular order, because the way the braid was dyed, it wasn't in specific color areas. It was quite sporadic. And then I used, with the leftovers that I had on 2 bobbins, I just did a 2-ply with that. This is much twistier, you can see. Let me put this down. Yeah, this is definitely more twisted, more overspun. And I feel like it's loosely plied. Like I feel like when I look at it, when I see it like that, I feel like the ply should be closer together. But I got to look into that, figure out how to achieve a nicer ply. And then again, with what was left, I just practiced my chain plying, which I actually was quite happy with how I did this time. But that is also like super over twisted. But it's just fun. I just keep embracing it. Like it is what it is. It's an enjoyable process. And I mean, in the end, I mean, I have usable yarn. I just have to use it now. So, you know, I know that I will improve with time. And several people at the Guild said I was doing really well. And they had no reason to lie to me, so I'm going to take them at their word. Oh, itchy. Now, you always get fiber. Whenever I handle it, I just totally itchy on the base of my nose now. So as I also mentioned, I pulled out my loom and started a new weaving project. So I am going to insert some footage here of that. So here's my latest weaving project. I've moved my loom over next to the patio door and turned on the lights with the hope of improving the lighting. It has been a dark, gloomy, wet day today. So doing the best I can with what I have. Saturday was also a dark, wet, gloomy day, and I decided that that was the perfect time to start a new weaving project. I have been itching to warp up my loom for a long time, and I was happy to finally have the chance. So I went into my craft room and started going through my yarns and just to see what would call my name. And I was going in an entirely different direction when I stumbled upon this combination, and I just knew that this was the right project for this time, and you will understand why in a second. So back before we went to Paris the first time in 2005, I had purchased 2 skeins of handmaiden sea silk. And it is 70% silk, 30% sea cell. There are 400 meters to 100 grams. And I would describe it as a heavy lace weight or light fingering yarn. And I purchased the Paris colorway with the intention of knitting a clapotis, which at the time was a really popular scarf / shawl pattern from Knitty Magazine. And I did begin that project, but I didn't like the way it was knitting up in this yarn, and I abandoned it. And then later on, I did end up using one of the skeins. Here's what's left over for a lace shawl, which I will show you in a little while. But in my stash, I came across this little bit left over and then the whole entire other skein. And I didn't really think too much about it until I came across this skein, which I had kind of forgotten about. And this is Fleece Artist Somoko. It's 65% merino, 20% kid mohair, 10% nylon, 5% silk. There are 350 meters to 115 grams, and I would call this a light fingering weight. And my intention, I think, was to knit a pair of socks out of it. And even though Fleece Artist and Handmaiden are not the same company, they are connected, and sometimes they dye up the same colorways. And this is also the Paris colorway, as you may have guessed looking at it. And I thought, well, how perfect would that be to weave these two yarns up together? And so I decided that the sea silk would be the better yarn for the warp, in large part because it's quite smooth, and I thought that I thought it would stand up to the action of the heddle better. And I also thought that this yarn might be quite slippery to actually weave with. And because this yarn is more fuzzy, I thought it might not stand up to the heddle as well. And I also thought it would be a better yarn to actually weave with. So that's how I determined which colorway was going to, or which yarn base was going to go where. And so I did warp it up, and I'll get rid of these yarns and labels and show you how it looks. I also thought that this yarn would make a really nice fringe on the end. So let me get these out of the way. Now keep in mind that there's light coming through from the floor. So I'm just going to bring this here where it's all wrapped in upon itself, so there's no light shining behind it, and you can see how it's weaving up. Now, because these yarns are dyed on, or because this colorway is dyed on two different yarn bases, they do look somewhat different. I think the biggest difference that I see is that in the sea silk, this color is very definitely turquoise, where in the Somoko, it reads more as green. So maybe put those side by side so you can see the difference. I'm not sure how well it's coming up on camera. Yeah, I think you can see. But other than that, they actually are very similar. So I'll see if you can see the sheen on this warp. I think so, if I do that. And then, as I mentioned, this yarn has more of a fuzziness to it, more of a halo, and I think it's really going to bloom once I wash it. So you can see there is light shining in behind here. I used a 12.5 dent heddle, which means there's 12.5 threads per inch, and then this is weaving up at about 10 per inch. But yes, very happy with how it's coming along so far. I would say I'm more than half done. Well, I do not expect to wear this in Paris. Not quite the right time of year. I do think I will be able to finish it up before we leave. And I'm really anxious to just see how it looks after it comes off the loom and gets washed. Like I said, I think the Somoko is really going to bloom and fill in some of these holes. So yes, thrilled to have a new project on the loom and finally get back to it after a 2 years absence. I knew it had been a while. I thought it was maybe a year and a half, and then when I brought out my notebook to record the information for this project, I saw that my last project had come off the loom 2 years ago, June. That is way too long. Welcome back. I forgot to tell you what I am wearing. This is Knit Me Baby One More Time by Mary Annarella of Lyrical Knits. I knit this I began it back in the fall of 2021 and finished it in March of 2022. I used 3 colors of All Points North Yarn Company Sweet Sock. This green is Olive You, like olive you. And then this speckled one is Raindrops, which is very appropriate for today. And then I don't know if you can see, the navy on the bottom is called Anchors Away. Maybe what I'll do is put a picture here so you can see it in full, because I can't back up any further than I already am. I got a newsletter this morning from Mary Annarella to say that she has a birthday sale that is going to run until June 14th, 40% off of all of her patterns. And so I will do my best to remember to put a link to her Ravelry pattern store and her Payhip store. And she has lots and lots of great patterns to choose from, so you might want to go and check those out. And I don't feel bad telling you about it because she said it's not a super secret sale, so I'm spreading the word. I've been really happy with everything I've knit from her patterns and can highly recommend them. I have this itchy nose again. Oh, it's like right below my nose, just tickling. Okay, acquisitions. So as I mentioned, I did buy some more fiber from Jude of Useful Creations. I bought 3 braids of the Superwash Speckle, including this one. My daughter had a couple of these sitting beside her, and I was like, oh, and then I was able to find one for myself. So again, this one is one I'll just spin as it comes off. I mean, nothing's really, blocked off, or there aren't really obvious sections of color. So I'll probably just see how those spin up. And then I bought this one, which I thought was really cool because it's like a gradient. And so what I'm going to do with this one is break it apart and spin each section and put them all together in one length. And then I'm either going to chain ply it, or I got this one too. It's a Superwash Merino. It has some stellina in it. I don't know if you can see the sparkle. I don't think so. But I thought, because the pinks are very similar, I thought what I might do is spin this all end to end, and then spin this end to end and ply them together. So not sure yet, but these are definitely, are most likely going to go together in some fashion, either before or after they're spun, but I think. I could change my mind, but when I saw the similar colors, I thought, ooh, those would look really cool together. So we'll see. Looking forward to spinning those up too. All right, it's chilly. Even with a wool sweater, I just thought I just saw a flash of lightning, but I'm not positive if I just caught a light from somewhere here with me moving around, but I guess in theory we could have a thunderstorm. Anyway, yeah, I'm chilly. I just went and warmed up my tea, and even with a wool sweater, I know it's only short sleeve, but even with a wool sweater, it's chilly today. when I finish recording, I'll probably go put my plaid flannel shirt back on. Okay, life. So, the Tuesday, I think it was, after I'd met up with my daughter at the Spinners and Weavers Guild, she and I went to our local museum because the Guild is celebrating, I think it's their 50th anniversary this year. I think it's 50th. Or is it 100th? I'll check and put it down here. Could be 100th. Anyway, they're celebrating a big anniversary, and there is an exhibit at the museum. So we very much enjoyed walking through that and seeing examples of all sorts of different spinning and weaving projects. There was one scarf in particular that caught my eye, and that's what I was going to try and duplicate that technique when I first went to go pick out some weaving yarns. And then that's when I stumbled across the Paris yarns. I thought, no, I've got to weave those first. But I do have an idea for my one of my next projects. I don't know if it would be the next project. But yeah, very interesting and inspiring. And my daughter recognized projects from a number of her fellow Guild members. So it was even more meaningful for her. In between rainy days, I have managed to do some more yard work, and I was thrilled on Friday to finally weed my front gardens and tidy them up and trim all the shrubbery. We got a hedge trimmer last fall. I hadn't used it yet, and man, that sure made that job a whole lot easier. I always just would be like clip, 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 try to, one little bit at a time. This is like zoom, zoom. I did find it heavy by the end. The battery in it is heavy, and when I put it down, I went to take a drink of water, and my hands were just like shaking like this. But that was just from, I think, using these muscles I don't use a lot in my forearm here. Anyway, it looks so much tidier now. And then my husband cut the grass, I think it was that evening before the rains came, because we knew it was supposed to rain hard for the next few days. So I did buy some flowers over the weekend. I've got some ceramic pots out in the front garden that I want to put some flowers in. And I'm going to put this climbing flower I had last year that was climbing up around the pole where we have our bird feeders in the front yard, and it looked really nice. So I bought another one of those. But other than that, I'm not going to put out a lot of flowers in the front yard this year. I have a couple hanging baskets. I'll have my pots and that. I just don't feel like keeping up with them, and we're going to be away, and I don't want to have the kids to have to worry about tons and tons of watering also. So it will do. It will add some color to the yard, and just enough to, spruce things up a little bit. This past Sunday, we went over to my oldest sister's. My mom was staying with her for a few days. For Mother's Day, my sisters and I, well, I always say my sisters and I, but the husbands contributed too. We all went together and got tickets to a concert for my mom, and also had flowers sent to her, but on the actual day. But where was I? Oh yeah, so my oldest sister took her to this concert, and they went out for dinner and had a lovely time. And then she thought while she was still in town, she'd have us over for, all of us over for happy hour for drinks and appies on Sunday. So one sister is away in Hawaii with her husband. Poor her. So she wasn't able to come, but my younger sister and her husband did. So there were 7 of us, and it was quite a nice visit. We don't get together nearly as often as we should, so it's always nice when we do. This coming weekend is the mid-season tournament for ball, and it's actually supposed to be decent weather, so that's a good thing. I was kind of, I cannot tell a lie. Normally the mid-season tournament is on Father's Day weekend, which is when we're going to be away. So I was not exactly thrilled to find out that it was next weekend and that we were going to be here for it. I just feel like, oh, we got lots to do before we go away, but I'm just trying to make up for it during the week and doing as much as I can to get prepped for our trip. So it'll be fine. It's just I was kind of hoping we were going to miss it this year. Cameron, on the other hand, is thrilled that we are not, and so good for him. I know it means way more to him than me. And yes, we are leaving for Paris and Amsterdam next Wednesday. So one more week and we are out of here. So excited. Definitely, yeah, just so excited about it and getting clothes ready and, finalizing different details and stuff. And yeah, cannot wait. I gotta figure out what knitting projects I'm going to take because I don't anticipate having a lot of time to actually knit while we're there, but definitely on the plane. So, and probably in the mornings. I can see us getting up and kind of sitting around and knitting and reading and waking up. But we'll see. And I can definitely take my knitting with me around, we have visions of sitting by the river with some wine and bread and cheese, and we could bring our books and our knitting for that too. So yeah, got to figure that out. I'm sort of thinking about obviously socks, but then maybe my blanket of cheer. It's not too big to carry along, and it's small enough to work on, at a time. We'll see. And then when we get back, we're home for just under a week, and then we're gone again for a few days. Cameron's aunt passed away a couple of months ago, and she didn't want any sort of service, but some of the family is getting together in Calgary, Alberta, for a little get together, and so he wanted to be there. So we're going to drive to Calgary, and then my aunt lives in Edmonton, which is about a 3.5-hour drive north of there, and we're going to go drive and see her and then drive home. So lots of miles. We looked into flying, the pros and cons between the cost and the convenience of having a vehicle while we're there, all those different things. And in the end, we came down on the side of driving. So Cameron will do most, if not all, of the driving. He prefers to be a driver. I prefer to be a passenger. But if he wants a break, by all means, I will take the wheel. So I do anticipate getting a lot of knitting done in the car. And I did order some Canada Day themed yarns from Polka Dot Creek. And so I don't know if they're gonna arrive before we leave for Paris, but they should certainly be here by the time we get back. So I'm picturing on Canada Day long weekend, working on some Canada Day socks in the car. Right, let me look at my notes. So I am, okay, I do not know how much computer access or time I'm going to have, more importantly time, while we're away. So if you do ask questions or send notes, be aware that I may not get back to you in a timely manner. I know I don't always anyway, but especially in the next few weeks. I am really hoping to do another episode between when I get back from our trip to Europe and when we leave again for Alberta. That will depend on life, but I'm hoping to pop in again then. And then the following week will kick off the Rock Your Socks make-along, and we'll conclude on June 30th the Accessorize It make-along. So at the very least, I'll try and get in a short video just to remind you about those things. It's all just going to remain to be seen because I just don't know what the next few weeks exactly are going to look like. So bear with. Okay, something good. I have two things. Today is our older son's birthday. He is 37 years old today. That seems really hard to believe. We had a little exchange on our family chat this morning. Our younger son called him a fossil, and I said, well, if he's a fossil, what does that make me? And he decided that was an artifact. So he's well aware that he's now cut out of the will. No. But yeah, 37. So we went over last night, took his card and gift over. And he's getting together with his brother and some friends tonight for dinner and karaoke, I guess. So that'll be fun. And my other something good, I call it my, like it belongs to me. The lazulite bunting has still been around. Cameron saw it very briefly, saw a little flash of it flying on Sunday, and then I have the Merlin Bird app where you can put out sound. You can listen for, you can record the sound and it'll identify what birds it hears. And I thought I heard it singing, and I put the app on, and sure enough, it picked it up. So I have not personally seen it, but the bird app has picked it up a couple times that I've seen this past week, and like I say, Cameron saw a quick flash of it. But we had another, not exotic bird, but ones we do not see very often. We came home from grocery shopping last weekend, and Cameron was up ahead of me walking into the kitchen, and he said, there's a bird on the feeder I don't recognize, and came up and was like, oh, I'm pretty sure that's a grosbeak, and had to look up to see which one. But we had a flock of evening grosbeaks settle in for a few days, both males and females, and they came and went over the course of 3 or 4 days, and then they were gone. But coincidentally, as we kind of lost ours, my daughter had some at her place. Whether or not they are the same birds, I have no idea. She's not exactly like next door or anything, but it's obviously they're around at this time of year. So yeah, I've seen them before, but not very often, and not in a flock like that. So it was really fun to have those birds. So I will again put a little bit of a clip at the end of the video here in case you're interested, because I know lots of you are bird lovers too. And I think on that note, it's time to wrap things up. So thank you once again for watching and joining me today. Have yourselves a great couple of weeks. I guess it's going to be, okay, I didn't figure out. Is it going to be 3 weeks till I record again? I think it'll be about 3 weeks before I hopefully get another recording out, after our one trip and before our others. So take care until then, and I look forward to recording again when I get back and telling you all about our adventure. See you soon. Bye.